slow dance.
Act like you got 'em skate. 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 Go live, I'm finna go live. 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 Go live, I'm finna go live.
What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome back to Coach Hayes Football Live. I'm super excited to be here today. We are going to be talking about junior college football, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am going to give a few minutes for people to log on. I see some of our numbers are increasing, as well as if you can do me a favor in the comments section to let me know everything sounds good and everything looks good. Put a thumbs up in the comment section or a brief comment that says everything looks good, and sounds good. So that way, if we need to make any adjustments, we definitely can. So let me see. We got a few people jumping in. That's perfect. All right. Let me see here. All right. Looks good. Good. All right, man. So let's go ahead and just kind of get on into this thing and see what's up. Again, we're talking about junior college football here. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the programs. I got a very exciting guest coming on today. He's actually in the fire, and I'll introduce him here in a second. But before we get started, I do want to just take care of some housekeeping, and that is if you are not subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as on Facebook. If you like, please start a watch party. That will help this channel grow as well. And if you want to on YouTube, please make sure you share out the link to family, friends, or whoever. Okay, as well. I think this show is going to be very informative. I'm excited to learn because there are some things I definitely do not know about the junior college football system, especially being here in the state of Florida. We don't have, well, we have exactly one, I believe, is ASA down in Miami. But we're not a state that has a lot of junior college football, so we don't experience that a lot from a coach's standpoint. I think a lot of people will learn from it. As well. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump right on into this thing. We all know that Last Chance U has now debuted, I think, season 5 on Netflix with Laney College out in California. And we know we've seen the other one, I want to say Mississippi and Independence and all these different schools and all the different coaches. Just my take on it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was the very first California junior college program they featured. And I must say, I just binge watched that thing this weekend just passed. And that's what prompted me to do this show today. And I learned, oh my God, I can't tell you as much as I learned just from that show. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper in with some people that actually know, that are actually into the fire and know exactly what's going on, because, you know, things can be edited a certain way to look a certain way. And so therefore I like to talk to people that know exactly what's going on. And I have to say this episode here, or this season here, was probably a little bit more mild-mannered than what you typically have seen on Last Chance U, with the polarizing figure of head coach Jason Brown and some of the other guys before, and some of the things that went on. So again, like I said, I want to talk to people that actually know what's up with it. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest for today. All right. He's the defensive line coach of Reedley College in California, and his name is Coach Jason Lira. So I'm going to bring him on right now. Give me a thumbs up, everybody, for Coach Jason Lira. Coach, how you doing? Uh-oh, my fault, engineering. I'm sorry, man. I hit the mute button on you. I apologize. Go for it.
That's all right. No, I said thank you. It's Jesse Lira, Coach Jesse Lira.
Perfect, man. So, Coach Jesse Lira, do us a favor, man. Give us a little introduction, a little background about yourself. Guess, you know, how you came up. I know we had a chance to talk previous to the show, and you were telling me a little bit about your background. I would like for you to talk a little bit about that process, you know, from then to, you know, how you became to becoming a coach and all that, and then just where you are today.
Yeah, I started out as an assistant high school coach right when I graduated college. Was a Reedley College alum, played there for 2 years, won a state title my freshman year there. Was fortunate enough to go off and play at a NAIA school in Kansas when I was done with junior college. And then as soon as I got out, I was able to get in at a small high school here in our area, where I was coaching as an assistant for 2 years. And then at the age of 24, 25 years old, I became the head coach at a real small school where I was assistant at. And then for 3 years, I did that, helped build that program up, and was able to. And then I took off and went to another school where I was another small high school head coach for 3 years as well, where I had my first Division I athlete that I was able to help with getting recruited. And then after 3 years, I was asked to resign, not winning games, and so I took some time to figure things out, and went over to another local high school, was a little bigger school, and was able to coach as an assistant there for a year. And then after that, I got my shot in the junior college ranks. I was at a junior college locally, and a school that I actually had played against as a player, and I was fortunate enough to work for a guy that played in the NFL for 13 years, Irv Pankey, played for the Los Angeles Rams. And so I got to Coach Pankey for 2 years. Love Coach Pankey, learned a lot from being with him. Went through some tough times, just not winning a whole lot, and, dealing with just issues that you have in the junior college ranks of recruiting, and, trying to just, take care of everybody and making sure everything's taken care of, especially at a school like that where we didn't have housing. It was a lot different there. And then after 2 years at college at Sequoias, I ended up at Reedley College. So I took a year off in between in 2018, and then I got back into it in 2019, where I just finished up with Reedley College as a defensive line coach. We just finished up a 10-1 season, won a bowl game for the first time in about 15, 20 years, and feel like we have a lot of momentum going forward. So I work for a really good head coach in Eric Marty, and learned an incredible amount from being with Coach Marty and just his organization, and learning how hard-nosed football is, what it's all about. And that's one thing that I've definitely learned being at Reedley College. So, and then coaching for about 17 years total.
Good, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing your experiences and your knowledge with our guests. What I'd like to do is, let me ask you this real briefly. So have you had a chance to see The Last Chance U and maybe some of the previous episodes?
Yes, I've watched all of them. I've watched the ones that were in Mississippi, the ones in Kansas, and then I watched the one that was in California as well. Yes. Okay.
And do you believe though those are true depictions of college football?
I do. I definitely do. If there's anything out there that they're saying that isn't true, I think that they are pretty good about. It's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate with just how hard-nosed it is. That you hear a lot of yelling, a lot of cussing, a lot of things that you don't hear at the high school level. And so I definitely think it's on point. I mean, you're going to get that in pretty much anywhere you go, from what I know.
I got you. Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we had a couple of issues on Facebook. So if you are on Facebook, if you can't hear me, I'm not sure why it's frozen. Again, we're here in Florida. We are in hurricane season, man. Look here, it's starting to storm, thunder and everything right now. So we go through this time of year, man. It's like when you're in it, you live it, you know what it's all about. So if you are stuck and it's not working on Facebook, please jump on over to YouTube and just search Coach Hayes Football. If you're not a subscriber, if you are, you should know exactly where it is. And you can definitely see it live on YouTube as well. So I appreciate it for everybody who's trying to get on. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But again, when you're dealing live and you're dealing with technology always wins. So let me say this to you, Coach, in saying all of that. So with those accurate depictions of college football, and we see all of those things, and we see the cursing and the this and the antics and all of those things, I guess just to say, I guess it's not surprising because you're technically dealing with adults. Would you agree? I mean, they're still young adults. They're kids in some people's eyes, but they're usually 18 and above, right?
Right. And, I think stuff is that you have young men that come from all different types of backgrounds that are used to, in most cases, skating by, being the favorite at their high school and being able to miss a class or not, turn in an assignment or turn it in late. And so you take some of those habits with you when you get to your next school. And, at the junior college level, you can't be nice about it. If you're nice about it, a lot of players will mistake that for a weakness, unfortunately. And so it ends up becoming a mess if you're not hard-nosed, if you're someone that's going to give a chance after chance after chance. A lot of guys just, it's just like they're going right back to high school again. And so you're just continuing those bad habits, and it never equals anything good. And so it's so important as a head coach in a junior college that you are consistent and you're hard-nosed about what you do, because that's the only way it's going to work. And I'm a firm believer in that. And definitely now being in my second junior college and seeing how two different things were done. Not to say that at my previous school that it was, anything bad, but I know that you have to be very stern. You have to be able to stay on top of guys on their academics, making sure they get to practice and so on, or else you are gonna come across some issues.
Gotcha. And so as I look at those things, man, and I guess I'm talking, my audience is I guess probably between 25 and 45 roughly, but I do have some athletes on here as well, but probably a lot of parents on here of athletes or high school athletes as well. And so what I want to talk about today is the good, the bad, and the ugly of college football, things that people may not know. Like I said, especially being here in the state of Florida, and I've been coaching 20 years. I don't truly understand the ins and outs of college football as I would, I guess, four-year institutions is lack of a better term. Your Division 1, 2s, 3s, NAIAs, so forth and so on. And so what I want to do is take this time to educate people that may not know. And you're more than welcome in the comment section to leave a comment about anything that's being said, maybe some experiences that you may have if you're watching. And we just want to kind of talk about this process, I guess, and so forth. So let's just take it from a high school senior coach that's coming out. He may not have a bunch of looks, when I say looks, meaning it doesn't have a lot of looks from the colleges, from the four-year institutions. How do the junior colleges and the four-year institutions, how does that play? How does that work?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on the size and the weight of a kid, and the position they play. And so in most cases, you got a kid that, is an All-American running back who's been a standout on his team for the last 4 years. You got some guys that you could say that have even played 4 years of varsity football, and, and they can't understand why, I'm an All-American. Why am I not getting any D1 love, or why aren't the four-year schools recruiting me? And a lot of it has to do with just, coaches can't be everywhere. College coaches can't be everywhere. Especially if you're in a really small town. And so what happens is you get a junior college coach that'll come to you that really wants you to come to their school. They like what they see on film. You show all the signs of being a great athlete that can contribute to the team. And so a lot of times, like in my experience, when I get a kid who I really like on film that I can see them playing for us, what I usually try to do is I try to pitch to them that basically, it's okay that you don't have these four-year schools recruiting you right now, especially if you get a kid who has good grades and they're discouraged, they're sitting there sad and complaining about how they're not getting anybody to recruit them. But as someone that has seen it at so many different levels now, if I have a kid who's an All-American athlete, shows all the stuff that you need on film, and he has grades, I'm telling them, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that NAIA school, that D2, that NAIA, whatever it is. You don't need to worry about them. Come play for us, and play for us for even a semester. Kick butt, do your thing, show that you can do the same thing you did in high school, and ultimately you're going to increase your stock. And then the other part of that is, if say they did have smaller schools recruiting them, then you got to look at where you're at financially with your family, and that, or how much money are you going to have to pay out of pocket? How much are they going to expect you to pay out in student loans? And so when you get that high school senior, that's the stuff that you pitch to them. You explain to them that, in most cases, you're not going to get a full ride at a smaller school outside of Division I and, your FCS and your FBS level. You're not going to get a full ride scholarship. So you try to explain to them that you're going to have to take out some type of loan unless you're a 4.0 student and you qualify for a larger scholarship. That there are cases where kids do get a full ride because they have a high enough SAT and they have a really high GPA to where they can qualify for those bigger scholarships. But outside of that, we try to explain to guys that, you could come to us, save some money, and increase your stock. And, ultimately find yourself playing at a higher level than what you might even imagine you could play at.
I got you. So you said something that was important, and I think that here's the problem. A lot of kids don't look in the mirror. They don't understand their ability in the sense of, here's a big thing. You just said a kid was All-American, but he's not getting the looks. And this is what I try to explain to kids when I coaching and putting them in college. Because you're the baddest guy on this team doesn't mean you're the baddest dude for their team, right? Because you're looking at one high school, which is a pinhead on a map. So, for example, when a college coach comes into a city, for example, let's just say I'll take Orlando right here where I am, right? I use the same example with my kids. Okay, you may be the baddest guy at this high school where I am right now, right? Now I coach at Olympia, so you may be the baddest dude at Olympia. Well, guess what? They're looking for a safety, for example. They're going to look at the number one safety at Olympia. They're going to Dr. Phillips, which is right down the street, for a safety. They're going to Wekiva, which is down the street, for a safety. Jones High School down the street for a safety. They're going to all these high schools around for a safety. Then they're going to take all those, say, 6, 7 guys, and then they're going to pick the best out of that. Once they pick the best out of those 6 schools, they're going to compare that to the other schools in the state of Florida, and then they're going to pick out of the best of those. And then they're going to take all the safeties they have on the board from each state, and then they're going to pick the best one out of those. So just because you're the best kid that may be at Olympia, you may end up being number 15 on the board by the time it's all said and done if they're doing national recruiting, right? And so I just want to kind of explain it to a lot of parents. A lot of parents don't understand because little Timmy is out here scoring all these touchdowns on Friday nights in front of you. That doesn't mean that Johnny in Wisconsin ain't scoring twice as many. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think a lot of parents don't understand that process. They, because they got the mommy and daddy goggles on, and they see, oh, my kid is the best. Yeah, he's the best here, but that doesn't mean he's the best around. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to take 15 safeties in a class. It's just not going to happen. All right. So I just want to make sure I cleared that up. And then as well as you mentioned so far increasing your stock. And so let's jump into the goods of deciding to go. And you talked about scholarships real quick. I don't want to go back. I'm sorry. Packages, right? Because a lot of people don't understand this. They think full rides is just athletics. But no, there's a lot of FCS schools that can package you up. There are a lot of D2 schools that package you. And when we talk about packaging, we're talking about using your Pell Grant, using some scholarship money from football from the program gets. We're talking about using academic funds that you may receive based on your grades and test score, and maybe some other scholarships that the school has received from a booster or whatever the case may be. But it's all not a 100% athletic scholarship. But in turn, you may have an opportunity to go to that school for free. And so that's what a lot of parents don't understand as well, is that they think, oh, my baby got this full ride. Why is John, when he goes to Florida, he's getting his Pell Grant money back, but my son is not getting his Pell Grant money back, and they think people are taking it from him. But that's not that's part of your scholarship dollars. You understand what I'm saying? So I just wanted to put that out there. So, Coach, let's jump straight on into before I do this, let me just give out a couple of shout outs here. To Coach Clark, says, sounds good. Great. Coach Nellums, what's up, man? It's my man right here. Coach Nellum, we coach together. What's good, homie? All right. And that's what we have so far. I know that the comments are rolling in a little bit slower. It may just be some bandwidth issues or whatever, but we'll definitely get to them as they come in. So now let's jump into the good of this. What would be, if, like you said, I'm a high school senior, and you kind of touched on a little bit, but I want you to elaborate a little bit. What are some of the benefits of going, say, the junior college route versus maybe a Division III school or Division II school or NAIA?
I think the biggest thing is that, kind of going back even to what you were talking about earlier, just what parents see when they're watching their kid and, and them not getting attention. I think it's important that, even though you might not be getting recruited by four-year schools, that you have to – it's about what you're showing on film. And what you show, what does your talent level show? How do you showcase your strengths? What do your weaknesses look like from what coaches are seeing from a highlight? And that really is where it all starts, and figuring out if junior college is even a route for you, because I've come across kids that get real discouraged and sitting there, with a mopey face and upset because they're not getting recruited. And in my eyes, I get excited because I'm thinking you still have a shot. At least on your film, you show you can play ball, that you can play at a high level. You can turn it up another gear. You have that snap that a lot of coaches will say that you need to have at the D1 level. So when you get that senior in high school who's been a standout all their life, or even it could even be a middle of the road guy, what it's going to come down to is having size, having speed, and then being headstrong, being mentally strong when it comes to the good, bad, and the ugly. And so I just think that when you talk to a young man about coming to the junior college ranks, that they have to understand everything that goes into it. One of the things that we're very clear on is that, we don't have, the best facilities. We're not going to sit here and have the best weight room and the best locker room, and we're not going to have all the bells and whistles. And I think that's something that you have to be very clear with young men, because they have a vision of what a college is supposed to look like. And when they don't see that, when they get on your campus and they see it looking like it's like they're back in high school again, they get a little confused. And so I think it's very important to give them everything up front, let it be honest about everything that they're getting themselves into, and then understanding that you're going to be competing with guys that are older. You're going to be competing with guys that have more experience. And so you're trying to prep them for when they get to you, and so that when they step on your campus and they see 100 guys out there, that they don't want to walk away and leave after one day of football. And so, when you get a kid who can handle all of that and can go in and battle with, 20 other running backs that are playing the same position as you, and you can get over the fact that there's those other 19 guys in front or whatever, and you can just continue worrying about learning the system and going to practice every day and staying healthy and worrying about your academics. I really think that you really put yourself in a whole different category when it comes to being a college prospect at the 4-year level. You definitely are going to be more mature, and you're going to be more prepared for the competition ahead when you get to that next level. And so I just think that when if you're a guy who's got some size on you and you have some speed, you show signs of that snap that coaches are looking for, then I think that when you get to the junior college level, and depending on what school you try to attend, I think it's very important that you go somewhere where you're going to get an opportunity. Where right now in California, I'd say that just outside of maybe the top 5 to 10 junior colleges in the state, outside of those 5 to 10 schools, you could pretty much go to any school outside of those top 10, and you could probably fight for a spot. Where it'd be a lot tougher to go to a school that's more established, that's top team in the state, because they have probably more guys to choose from. They probably have more guys that are returning for either redshirting or something like that. So you try to go to some powerhouse JUCO here in California, you probably won't play, and you probably are going to have to wait a year or two before you get your shot. But if you go to the right situation, you get yourself with the right coach who has a history of developing players and getting kids out, then those are places that you want to go. And I'd say for the most part, here in California, I think the coaches do a pretty good job of helping their guys out and getting out. So I don't think it's going to be one of those things where you got to really focus in on, does that coach get players out? Because your film's ultimately going to get you out. And it's just getting that opportunity to showcase yourself and do the things that you're good at. And when you get a kid who was an All-American high school, who was never seen, that's been under the radar all their life, and they get to the junior college ranks and they blossom and they turn into this different player. One example that comes to mind is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I happened to coach against him when I was a high school head coach, the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. When he was in high school, he went to a really small high school, coached against him in the playoffs, and beat them pretty good. Where he threw baby, and we put it on him. I think we beat him like 41-8 is what I remember. And I wouldn't have thought at that time that Josh Allen was a Division I quarterback. But he definitely had the size, he had the arm strength to do it. And just kind of like you said earlier, you had a kid who had this guy had a Division III offer out of high school, and he had a couple junior colleges that were recruiting him. And I was fortunate enough to have made a connection with his dad, and he talked to me about it and was kind of asking like what my thoughts were on it. And I just shared with them, I said, I think the most important thing is that you have to be with the coach that's going to help him grow. You got to develop, you got to be able to learn, because him going from here in California, he's playing D5 football, which is the second lowest level you can play. And so he's playing D5 football, playing against undersized guys that do not run very fast. And now you're trying to make a jump to the junior college ranks where guys are running really fast and really mature and doing things differently than what you see at the D5 level. So it's so important to get with the coach who's going to teach you how to make reads and do the correct things that you need to do, and also help you with game planning and prepping for each game. And so,
Gotcha.
In Josh's case, he was fortunate enough to, he trusted the right people, and he, took some advice that, might have been tough for him at the time because he was so set on going to a 4-year school. But I think they did a great job of just doing what they knew what was best for him instead of what they just wanted for him. And they decided to go and play for a good friend of mine who was the offensive coordinator at the time at Reedley College. And it just happened to work where, this young man got a chance to play game 4, I think it was, when he got his first start, and he threw for about 2,400 yards in 6 games. And then it just went from there where, his film did the work. He had schools that picked him up that didn't give him a shot when he came out. I actually had a chance to talk to Josh, and he told me that. He said, I had schools that were, that I had reached out to, that I had emailed, and they told me no. They didn't. So he did get a good laugh out of that. They were coming back, and then now asking him to come on board. And Wyoming was willing to bring him on in the fall, after the fall semester, so he was able to enroll for the spring. And that's pretty much what it came down to, was he had an opportunity to get on the field as soon as possible and take shit.
Good, man. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like I said, we're talking about the goods, and that's a great story. But to say this, and I'm a person that looks at things both ways. I think if Josh Allen if he didn't go to that, he didn't mature enough, fast enough, and would have got pushed back in the ranks if he would have went to that 4-year. So every situation, I guess, is a little different, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Right. No, I really see what you're saying. And I think in Josh's case, and it's just, it's hard to sit there and tell this to an 18, 19-year-old young man that to go out and work hard and things will happen. Because I'm telling you, Josh's story is still the craziest thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And, I've been coaching for 17 years and, as a player, and, so I've been doing this for about almost damn near 25 years now as a player coach. And, and I've never seen anything like this. And I even asked Josh, I said, what did you do? What did you do to improve? Because when we played against him in a playoff game his junior year, he was getting destroyed. I mean, we were sacked him probably 7 or 8 times. He showed no signs of being able to move outside the pocket. He seemed like a pocket passer. So to see him running the way he is, it blew me away. And so I had to ask him, what were you doing? And, he lives in a really small town. So this is a town that's, 30 minutes from the next biggest town. So it's not like access to trainers and, facilities to go and do different things at. This is a kid that went to his local high school and ran sprints and listened to a couple of assistant coaches when it came to things to do to get faster and stronger. And he just did it. And he did it. And the thing that, you find out through these times is how much you really love your sport. And I think that people that know Josh, they're going to say is that he loves football, because if you Josh, he's it's all he thinks about. It's all he's about.
Right. So let me say this to you then. So we talked about those things, the good things. Also, and I know we spoke previous to this live coming on, we talked about a chance to save money. Explain to people how that works. For example, because again, we are talking for people who just logged on or just tuning in. We are talking about the good, bad, and ugly of junior college football. So we're currently on the good part. And so we talked about some of the benefits of going, playing time, exposure, increasing your stock. But let's talk about the financial piece of it now. What would be the good of going to a junior college from a financial aspect?
So what happens is, like for us, when we get a kid who we like a lot, say for example, just a D lineman, I see a kid who, fits the measurables, it's 6'4", 260 pounds, but yet he has no Division I offers, but he's got NAIA, he's got D2 offers. my first question to a young man is, how much are they making you pay out of pocket? And so when they tell you how much, then that kind of helps with being able to explain what we can do to help them. And so what happens is that in most cases, the kids that come in from out of state to California, they're going to pay out of state tuition, which is about triple the amount that an in-state kid pays. And so first year can be tough because especially at a place that has dorms, which isn't very many here in California. I believe there's 3 or 4 colleges in our junior colleges in California that have dorms. So your top places are going to be a little bit more expensive. And then, so what happens is, between your financial aid and then any type of support you're getting from home, you're having to basically cover the cost for that first year, which is, roughly, like in a case for us, you're roughly going to pay between $7,000 and $8,000 for out of pocket if you're getting financial aid. And how the way we pitch it to a young man and trying to convince them to come to us is that if they do everything they're supposed to, there's a few things that they have to do. They have to get an ID here in California. They have to register to vote, and they have to make sure that they have an actual home address. And so there's a couple of little things that they have to do with filling out a couple forms to making sure you're an in-state resident. But after that first year, if you are still a full financial aid guy, when you become a resident of California, you can pretty much go to school for free. All your classes are being waived. And so when you have that happen and you get those classes waived, then the financial aid that you do receive, which a full financial aid guy, I believe, gets about $6,100, I think is what financial aid is right now. And so basically you have that money to help you pay for your living expenses. And so the way we explain it to a young man is we tell him, hey, look, you might be paying, $6,000 out of pocket for the next 2 years. For the next 4 years, each year you might be paying $6,000, which is going to equal up to $24,000 that you're going to pay. Where if you come to us for 2 years, we could cut that in half, if not more. And you just come to us and increase your stock and, get an opportunity to earn a better scholarship than you did out of high school. And so they basically get a chance to, save money their second year, where they're not paying. In most cases, they're not paying anything. You might have to come up with a couple $100 of the difference of what your financial aid doesn't cover. But outside of that, it beats the heck out of paying, if you're going to pay $12,000 over the next 2 years and you can cut that down from 12 to 8, I think anybody would say that's a better deal than, paying $12,000 for the next 2 years. I'd take $8,000 over 12 any day. And then it's going to increase my stock as well. I think that's huge.
Right. Okay. Well, let me do this as we get ready to segue into the bat. I do want to just, like I said, I'd like to talk to people. We are currently talking to Coach Jesse Lira. I'm sorry, Coach. He's the D-line coach at Reedley College in California. For those that are just tuning in, so you know who we are speaking to. Real quick, couple of shout outs here in between. Joe, what's going on, man? What's up, Coach? What's going on with you? Also, let me see here. Coach Will Nellum said that JUCO life will make you or break you. All right, we're going to find out here in a few seconds. My man right here, B. Parker, what's up, baby? He's a former player of mine. All right, JUCO is a learning experience. It shows you how to prepare and see if you really want this college life. Okay? Anti-fake news, much love from the Buckeye fans. I hear you. All right, and all right, Fragrance Journey 1, Dope Live. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming out. Coach Ward, what's up, man? And last but not least, Lakers all day, Dope. What's up with you? Yeah, I know we got Leonard Taylor. I know I'm a Hurricane fan, Coach. So we just got a big time commit today. I think we flipped him out of Florida. He was supposed to go to Florida. He was projected, these crystal balls and all these, things. He was supposed to go to Florida. So we flipped him and got him on come back to the crib, if you know what I'm saying. All right. So with all that being said, Coach, now we talked about the good. We talked about the benefits. We talked about financial. We talked about increasing your stock. But we did just finish up with the financial piece of how it is beneficial. But let's go to the bad part of that. So you're telling me if I was to go to California for $8,000, let's just say 8 for being modest. So it's $8,000. Okay. And that is simply just for school. Is that correct?
No, that would, in our case, that includes your room and board. So you're taken care of with that $8,000. Now, and kind of going back a little bit, Coach. So it gets a little tricky because now if you were to take us, if we're telling a kid that they're going to pay $8,000 a year to come to our college, but they're talking to one of the schools in our conference that does not have dorms, that does not have a meal plan, they're not going to pay as much as what they're paying to come to us. So when they pay that $8,000 with us, they're getting their dorm paid for. That's covering their dorm. That's covering their meal plan. Where they might go to a school in our conference, another school, and they say, yeah, you're going to pay it. All you're paying for is your living expenses. Well, that college can't give them an accurate number of what they're going to pay. So depending on how many people live in that home or that apartment house, and how much that rent is for that house is going to determine that. And then the struggle of figuring out how you're going to pay and buy or get food every day. So with us, it's different.
Okay, so the tuition. Let me get this through. So for you guys, is $8,000. That's housing and everything, right? Housing, meal plan, and school.
That's the difference that a kid would pay if they were a full financial aid guy. So if they were a full financial aid guy that we were recruiting, when they get their financial aid, and then the financial aid is going to take care of about roughly half of what they owe between tuition and what they're paying for their dorm and their meal plan. So
let me make this clear then. So for a kid that doesn't have, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because a lot of people get mistaken, right? So if a kid doesn't, and this happens to a lot of teachers, and this is why I want to be clear about this. Because one thing about teachers who have kids, I hear this story all the time. For some reason, teachers cannot qualify for financial aid. They feel like you make too much money, right? Which I don't know what salary they're looking at. Trust me. Okay. But so for a parent that had a teacher, whatever, or just say they don't qualify for it. Instead, their tuition would necessarily be about $15,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what I want to make sure. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why I want to talk about this. So if I'm a parent right now, my son is looking to talk to you guys right now. I'm a teacher, or I have a job where I make just enough, whatever the case may be. The government says, you know what? You're not a full Pell kid. Okay. So now what happens? I have to come out $15,000 out my pocket to go there, even though I know you guys have tuition, tuition, room, and board, right? So I get that part. Okay. So with all that being said, so now I'm looking at the difference between $8,000 to $15,000. Okay, to go there. And so that's why I want to kind of make clear, because some people may hear $8,000. Oh, that's not bad for college. But that's if you're a full $6,100 Pell kid.
Correct.
Okay. And so now that's what I'm talking about. So with the tuition that's where a lot of it gets a little hazy when it comes to junior college, as well as 4 years. Don't get me wrong. Because the Division IIs who may not full package you, your Division IIIs who don't give scholarships, they only give academic money. Those are the type of things that you got going on. So I'm saying all this to parents and to prospects who are listening. This is why academics is so important, because that helps supplement some of the money that you need in order to do it. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So real quick, I know Coach is finna go get some straightening right now. Coach ain't playing. He's finna go get some straightening right now. But with all that being said, man, so with tuition, here's another bad thing that I see, or I think in my mind, especially from a coaching perspective. A lot of kids, there's a big misconception about junior college football. Okay. There's a big misconception that because I go to a junior college, whether it's Kansas, Mississippi, California, whatever the case may be, I'm gonna automatically get a Division I scholarship because I go there. Now I may be wrong by saying this, Coach, and that's why I wanted you on here so you can explain to me and maybe open my eyes to something. You may be a Josh Allen story, right? But and I tell guys, and I have to say this, in 20 years, I've never had a guy go to a junior college. Maybe that's because in Florida we don't have any. Maybe a lot of junior colleges didn't come to South Florida. When I was there, we had a handful. East Mississippi used to come by, Coach Will and those guys. But we didn't have a lot. It wasn't like the guys were flying through the door to come get our guys. So maybe that's why my experience is limited. But I'm saying all that to say, guys think and they see things like Last Chance U. Man, I just go to junior college and I get a D1 scholarship there. Okay, so my thing is, what do you have to say so far as the misconceptions of junior college football?
I think that, you know, the biggest thing that I've noticed, especially lately, is if you have the film and you're showing yourself making plays and playing at the highest level, I truly believe that your average guy in high school who goes to junior college and does well and either becomes an all-conference guy or has enough film that showcases him doing what he does best, I do believe that you have a very good chance to go in Division I. And I can say that especially now after seeing a few kids that we've had this past year that are getting an opportunity or were given it, or that were offered a Division I scholarship that I don't know if they would have gotten that at any other time. But there's so many factors that play a part in it. One of them is going to be the fact that, you know, you're going to have it depends on where you go. It depends on what kind of program you're in. If you're at a program who's going 2-8 every year, chances are you're probably not going to get that opportunity. But if you're at a school who's making a bowl game every year,
we may have lost Coach for a quick second. Well, as you know, you got to call an audible. Right here, Coach Clark. Aiden said, hey, Aiden, what's up, man? Huh? What's up with you, man? Put that toy down, man. That's my boy right there. All right. Also, we got right here, Coke Dog 305 say, hey, what they do, Coach? What they do, man? All right. Real quick, I'm going to say this. I don't know. Coach went out. Like I said, man, it's bad here. Maybe bad on that side. I don't know. We have about a 3-hour difference between us. But I was going to bring this up about the misconception. And I think, and I don't know if you can hear this or not, but my biggest issue is when it comes to junior college football, a lot of kids think you have to really look in the mirror at yourself, man. You have to look at your ability, right? Because you can say what you want to say, but we know what it is, right? And you know what it is. And so with all that being said, you have to just really know to yourself that I'm this caliber of player. And here's a prime example of if you didn't get a chance to watch Last Chance U, this newest one, I hope you do. There's a young man on there. I want to say his name was Dior, okay? And please leave in the comment section down here as well. Please leave in the comment section down here as well. If you did see it, and leave your comments. Coach, real quickly, I was going to make this comparison as you said this. But there's a young man that was on Last Chance U named Dior, okay? He was the receiver. They ended up putting him at quarterback because the quarterbacks got hurt. Good player, very good player, okay? They didn't mention this to my knowledge, but he looked to be about the 5'9"-ish. Wasn't a very big guy, maybe 170, something like that, whatever the case may be, 175. And again, I may be off on his weight and whatever. And he kept saying in the thing that he's Division I, he's Division I, he's Division I. And there's nothing wrong with having that. But there comes a point, Coach, where you have to be realistic about the abilities. You have to be realistic about what these guys are looking for. Because one thing I know about major Division I college football is once that bar goes up, it very rarely comes down. Once Julio Jones went to Alabama, every coach looking for a 6'3", 220-pound receiver. Andre Johnson goes to University of Miami, 6'3", 220-pound wide receiver. Dwayne Bowe goes to LSU, 6'3", 220-pound wide receiver running 4.3s, 4.4s. That's just the game, you know what I mean? And these guys have enough money to scour the earth to find those guys. So what I was saying was, here's the parallel between the other kid, RJ, that played receiver, and the kid Dior. At the end of this, I saw RJ end up receiving a scholarship to Tusculum, which is in Tennessee, Division II program, right? Full ride, okay? Dior, who I think is still a better player than RJ was, but he wasn't as big or whatever the case may be, he struggled the most, I think, on that whole film I mean, the kid was sleeping in his car. He had work study. He was what they call it, couch surfing and all this stuff. And I'm not saying don't kill your dream, but let's be realistic at some point where, guess what? As the old saying, especially in today's day with technology and film, if they're good, they'll find you. Now you take that and walk onto Hawaii. You're walking onto Hawaii, so that means you're still paying more money, right? Still uncertain of your future. When you could have taken a Tusculum like RJ or another school, I guarantee those schools going after him left and right. I guarantee it. But he decided, no, I'm in a bigger bracket than that. Okay, I'm in a bigger bracket than that. And guess what happens? Guess what happens? He may miss an opportunity to be debt free. And I think that and here's the deal. Sometimes you got to be a big fish in a small pond, right? He could have been that big fish at Tusculum, broke all the records, and you don't think a GM would be looking at that dude saying, okay, this guy, prime example, the Jerry Rice's, and I know that's a little bit further back, but we can go all the way back to Gerson that played for the coach that was at Defiance Division III school. I don't think he would have got that opportunity if he played for Ohio State.
Right.
Because he would have been amongst the ranks. He would have been the average guy, I think. And he wouldn't have had that chance to mature. So I say all that because I was just talking in turn where a guy named RJ, who the other receiver was, he did what? He took his opportunity. Now he's got a free ride. Now he might be able to become a big fish in that smaller pond. So let me just go ahead and say all that. So when we talked about the bad, we talked about misconceptions. Let's talk about the recruiting process a little bit. You touched on it about what you want, but what are some of the bad things that may happen in recruiting? Maybe some promises that may not be met or kept, or things like that.
I think that the biggest challenge in junior college in California is trying to explain the estimate cost of it. What it'll be for an athlete coming out of state if they don't have dorms. If you don't have dorms and you're dependent on an apartment or a rental house, I just think it's really tough to tell a kid, give them an estimate of what they're going to pay. And so I think that's one of the bad is that, they come in and they were told that it was going to be a rough estimate of maybe $4,000 or $5,000, for the year. And they come in and, for whatever reason, it doesn't work that way. And they end up having to pay more. And so I think that's the biggest issue that you see at the junior college level. And there's so many factors that go into that, and that's why I think it's really tough for people to understand because, you get let's just say, a junior college gets a house and they want to put 5 guys in there, 6 guys in a 3-bedroom house, but they get another 2 or 3 kids that decided to come late or, something fell through on where they were going to live. And so now you're sticking 3 more guys into that house and you're thinking that that's going to, drop your price of what you're paying and it doesn't. And you're questioning what's going on. That's a similar situation that I've dealt with in my past years of coaching junior college where guys were getting frustrated because it was going to be this amount and they were paying this amount. And then you got mom and dad upset because they remember the same conversations that you were having when they were recruiting you and telling you that, that this is the amount it was going to be, and it's no longer that. And then you even get into some cases where they've been told that they're going to get an institutional work study job, and that's another way of helping with covering the costs. Some schools have it within the rules; they're able to offer a work study job, but sometimes those jobs either are taken by somebody else, or your athletic director is telling you that no, you're not going to have that work study job after all. Because I know at the school that I was at previously, we had at the time the first year I was there, I think we had 18 work study jobs, and then the second year we had 12 work study jobs. And so you bring in a guy and you have to tell them that they're not going to be getting that work study job. Now you're telling them basically they're going to be paying an extra $4,000 to $5,000 that they were dependent on having. When you told them that when you were trying to recruit them, and then now they're not getting that becomes something that's frustrating for a parent. When you're being told one thing and then something else is happening.
Right. And I'm gonna say this too. Well, I'm gonna leave that for the ugly side because I think it is. And I know I said I never had a kid to go to junior college, and actually that's not true. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm gonna push that on until we get to the ugly part of it. So now let's talk about let's get to the ugly. Let me do this real quick. Get a shout out, man. Right here, Leroy. What's going on? What's going on, Coach A? Man, put a shirt on, man. Got your picture on there with no shirt on, man. All right, that's my boy right there. Listen, man, Leroy was a tough cookie, man. I believe he's coaching now. I want to say at Northwestern High School, but man, that dude was probably 150. Man, I put him at nose guard one time. I always tell this story, man. Guess what, Coach? I'm a D-line guy myself too. And guess what, Coach? He was so quick that, I put him over the center. Hey, you got to snap the ball and deal with a dude that's running like that. You can get away with that in high school and so forth. But he did a great job, man. He did whatever it takes for us to win. And I appreciate you, Leroy, for that. I didn't leave anybody out, I don't think. No. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the ugly part of it, okay? Real quick before we do that, I am speaking with the defensive line coach from Reedley College, Coach Jesse Lira. And we're talking about the good, bad, and ugly of junior college football. We've already talked about the good. We've talked about the bad. And now we're going to get into the ugly side of things here. And I'm going to say this here. One thing, I'll just start off with my story, and then we'll go from there. I had a young man. I'm here in Orlando, and some things happen. I'm going to kind of be vague about it because that part is not important. But anyhow, there's a junior college, I guess in Minnesota, that was in Minnesota. And they're telling this kid he's getting $18,000 to go there. They're going to give him in-state tuition. He's $11,000. Okay. So now I tell him, okay, I'll come to find this out later. I really don't have anything to do with this. This is another coach from another institution, another high school dealing with this because everybody wants to have a hand in the pie. So I go to find out about this thing. Now, this is where the ugly part comes in. So I go to find out. I end up calling the coach up there, and I'm saying, Coach, how you dealing with this kid? I don't know anything about it. Long story short, he didn't even know I was the coach. He was dealing with someone else. So I said, Coach, you're going to have this kid come up there. It's $18,000. You said you're going to give him in-state tuition for $11,000. Okay, fine. Pell Grant is $6,000. Now he's left with $5,000, okay, to pay out his pocket. And it's, if I believe, I may be mistaken, but I don't believe there's housing either. Okay. His family doesn't have it like that. So now he has $5,000 tuition plus living expenses, housing, meal plan, whatever. And I said to him, I said, son, that's not a good deal for you. I said, because you're going to be home by January. You understand me? Nah, Coach, you don't believe in me. So it's not that I don't believe in you. It's your pockets that's the issue. You got to find a better situation. See, sometimes we're willing to sell ourselves because we think we can do it. But what a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, if you're stuck up there with an outstanding bill, you can't transfer those credits anywhere, nor enroll in another school because you owe those people money. And it's tied to your Social Security. So now, see, this is where it gets ugly with this stuff. So now this kid goes up there for the semester, because we could say what we want to say when it comes to work study and all that stuff, Coach. When it's football season, let's be real. Most coaches don't care about that kid going to his work study and all that stuff. They want to play because most junior colleges, they have him for that semester, maybe 2 years, and it's done, right? So I told him, you got to come up with $5,000. You got to have somewhere to lay your head and somewhere to put food in your mouth. And you don't have it like that. You're going to be home in January. Guess what? He was home in January. So I'm saying all that to say, and here's the deal. I don't know this for a fact. I may be wrong, but I guarantee he has an outstanding bill at that institution. And now he can't even go enroll at another school just to be a student because he has an outstanding bill. So he has to now pay that bill to that institution just to go to another school just to be a student. Forget football. Let's say football's done. So now he has to enroll. He can't even enroll. So now guess what he's doing? He's working every day to pay off something that he didn't even benefit from because he made a hasty decision and he wasn't well informed. And I tried to tell him the best that I could. But again, some people get caught up with the situation and not understanding fully. So I said all that to say, this is where the ugliness comes in. And this is really not just junior college. I've actually had a very similar story to a 4-year institution, but that's a whole different deal. But This is where the ugliness comes in into it. So talk to us a little bit about that, right? Have you guys had or heard stories of that kind of experience where that has happened to guys? Coach, I'm all in. I can do this. I can take this loan out. You know, because a lot of these guys can't take student loans. They're taking private loans. And then those banks want their money back because they ain't gonna let you sit on there for 6-8 months.
Right. And with us, I know that when we recruit kids and we're talking to the families, we try to make it very clear to them, what is it that they're going to have to pay out of pocket. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you're very clear on, what it is that they're paying. And so I can't say that I've seen that a whole lot. I think that there's ways for it to work. I know that, if it comes a situation where you're struggling with paying the amount that you have, I know that a lot of schools will work with you. They'll let you make payments on what you owe so that you can continue going to school. But, if the uglies really, to me, it has to do more with that young man taking responsibility and making sure that they're respectful around campus and that they were committed and they were trying to be the best student athlete they can be. And so when you have these kids that are going through the ugly, unfortunately, a lot of times it's because they've carried on the bad habits that they had in high school and they're just continuing the way they were. They're not changing. And so when that happens, it just continues to get worse and worse because now they have debt. And then to top it off, here they had debt and they failed classes. Here they're going to pay for failed classes that they took. And that's hard for anyone to swallow. And so I believe that is where it gets really frustrating for a young man, because now they're being told that you got to pay this bill and you have to start all over again. And so when you have to tell a young man that, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to overcome that because it's a lot. And you're talking, more money out of your pocket. And so a lot of those ugly situations are mostly coming from a kid who doesn't want to grow, doesn't want to learn and step up and be, a man and being able just to take on responsibility and doing what you're told and getting to meetings and getting to practice and things like that. And those ugly situations end up coming where those guys just don't understand and they're not willing to listen. Your head coach has probably told them 20 different times, different things they needed to get done, be at study hall, be it here, do this, do that. And they're choosing not to do it. And so when that happens, it does get ugly, but I can't sit here and say like I've seen a whole lot of that happen, because I think that we try to be very careful with the kids that we bring in. I think throughout the time that we recruit them, we can kind of identify a kid who wouldn't fit well with us. I always try to be really honest with kids when we talk to them about coming to us and if they're serious about coming out to our college, because our head coach is hard to play for. He's very demanding. He's going to expect a lot. There's a lot of different things that he does that I think that other schools don't do. And so I think that we try our best to weed out those guys that are not going to focus and not be the guy that we need them to be, because there's even things that you can kind of test them on to get an idea if they are a guy that can fit in, just by having them turn in the application and making sure they get their financial aid. And if that same is dragging their feet on different things, then we already know that we're taking a chance of bringing this kid in knowing that he's going to be this way, or we let him go because we don't want to deal with that, knowing they can't even handle simple things as financial aid and, application. What makes them think that, what makes us think that we can bring you in and you're going to go to a meeting and do all the things that we need you to do. But I would say that some of the ugly that I've seen that can be really complicated is when you transfer from one school to another. You get a lot of kids that because they didn't they didn't start the first game, or they were third on the depth chart, they pack up and they leave and they try to go to a junior college, either another one nearby or one that's in Southern California or Northern California. They try to go further away thinking that, their transcript's not going to follow them, and that's something else that becomes pretty ugly, is that they go to that school and they take a semester off and they try to go in and enroll in the summertime or in the spring. But you have to be careful, because you have to make sure that whichever school you're going to transfer to, that in California, if you're going from one in-state school to another in-state school, that you have to have the correct amount of credits from the school you're transferring to. You got to make sure you have, I believe it's 9 credits you have to have passed at your new school before you can become eligible. And so a lot of times kids don't understand that. They don't understand that there are transfer rules when it comes from going from one in-state school to another. And so that put them, another year behind because now they're having to catch up to get those credits. So a lot of times they assume things that are not true, and they end up having to pay the price by having to sit out another year and getting those classes.
Right. So again, that's exactly what I'm saying is so when those guys do that and they transfer, like you said, that's the ugly piece. They transfer. So you can transfer from a school, but you have to sit out if you don't have the 9 transferable credits. Is that correct?
Correct, because you're gonna have to make those classes up one way or another. So if you're not doing it between the summertime and the spring semester, then you're going to be doing that in the fall semester, and then the goal would be to play the next fall. And that's if you passed all your classes up to that point. Because the other thing is when you go into your second year of junior college as an athlete, you have to have 24 credits passed going into your next year, into your sophomore year. And a good portion of those credits have to be transferable. They got to be classes that are meaningful, or else they're not going to go with you and you're not going to be eligible. So that's the stuff that guys don't understand as well. They think they can, get into a bonehead class that's going to give them an easy A, but that doesn't mean that that's going to make you eligible. And I think that's another thing that can become the ugly because you're just getting behind and you're not aware because you're not asking the right questions, because in most cases in the ugly situations, they don't want to seek help from anybody because they pretty much have probably burned every bridge that they had had their way. They can't go to coaches. They're not going to go to the counselor. They're not going to go to a tutor because all those people are people that have probably already helped them to a certain extent, and they don't feel comfortable going to them. So they're trying to do it on their own, and then they have to find out the hard way, which is just them further and further behind.
So here's my thing then, because you brought this up, and it's perfectly what I want to tell you. I have an example of. So you see, a lot of people don't know, and here's the thing. I've heard this saying a while back, and it made so much sense to me. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so, yes, technically, on paper, they're adults. They're 18 years old. The parents definitely don't know this process. A lot of these single mothers, they don't play football. They don't know that process. They don't know. So they put a lot of trust into the coaches, the staff, the school, the institution to lead them in the right direction. Same thing in high school, right? How many the rules today, right? And coach, I don't think we're old guys, right? I think we some young guys. But the rules today are way different from our day. And so the parent, or let's just say the dad that went through and went to play major college football and he knows the process, he really doesn't know either, because the rules have changed so much in the 20-year period. So I'm saying all that to say I'm all for the kid supposed to know, right? And I'm all for you taking responsibility. But there's also a piece in there too where, like I said, people don't know what they don't know. And so you don't know to ask the right question. I say this all the time. Google has everything. Anything you want to know is in this little black box we're talking to right now. Anything you want to know. But you got to ask it the right question. Right. If you don't ask it the right question, it won't give you an answer. And so it's the same thing with people. If we don't know what questions to ask, how many kids ever heard of transferable credits? Let's be real. I never heard of transferable credits. So I'm saying all that to say, when you now leave college, and here's a story I had. So at the time I was at FIU, we were trying to get some transfer guys in out of California. The names escape me now, but that's not important anyway. But anyhow, we're trying to get some guys in to FIU at the time. And man, I mean, they could play, they could do all this. They had their AA degree. See, here's where another big problem happens. So they have their AA degree, but they don't have enough transferable credits. So it's kind of like it sounds crazy, but it's like an oxymoron. Like it doesn't make sense. One doesn't go with the other. It's conflicting. I have an AA degree, but I don't have enough transferable credits to go to a 4-year institution. But what happened with that gentleman, I think he was loaded up with he had a bunch of because he was a phys ed major. So I'm not trying, because I'm a PE major as well. So I'm not trying to, PE. People like to down PE majors. I got something for you. But anyway, he had too many of them. But it still had him in line, right? It still had him in line to get his AA degree. Same thing happens in high school, right? You have guys who can graduate high school, but they don't have college credit courses, right? And that happens all the time. So it's the same thing. You got guys that may have 4 or 5 classes, because in high school you can say, I'm a substitute home economics for econ to make them graduate high school, but they can't get into a college. And so the same thing happens at junior colleges. You can get an AA degree, but not have enough transferable credits. So that's one of the ugly things. And we couldn't even end up getting the guy. And I don't even know what happened to him, to be honest with you. But I don't know if he could transfer anywhere. I think he had to take some more classes there at the college in order to get transferable. So he ended up staying there another year or whatever the case may be. So what happens in that case?
If you get a guy that is in that situation, we actually have had to talk about that with a couple of guys that just finished up with us this past year. And what I try to tell them is that you have to go in and you're going to have to retake some, because what sometimes what happens is that a class that you got a D in, that there's going to be schools that don't accept those Ds. And so, because even though the school might have allowed you to get away with having 1 or 2 Ds to pursue your AA degree, that doesn't mean that that's going to go with you when you transfer. That's not going to go as a transferable credit, because that school won't accept it. So what I try to explain to athletes that we have is that you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to retake that class and basically sit out a year or sit out a semester so that you can get your grades up. We got a situation similar to that right now, where we have a guy that, really good player, but just doesn't have the credits that is needed. So we're trying to get him to retake a class that possibly he's got a D in, or even some classes that he's got a C in, because what I've learned in this past year is that you have a lot of FCS schools that are a lot tougher to get into, and they don't accept C's, or they don't accept a C minus. I was point blank by a coach this past offseason, just, they don't take C minuses. And so some guys think because they do get a C minus, they're like, what, I got a C, I'm good. No, that's not the case. And so that's something that I have just continued to emphasize to guys that are struggling to get in at those D1 schools, is you're going to have to go back and retake some classes to get that transcript looking a little bit better than what it is, because you're going to need to get your GPA up higher, and basically they're not going to accept what you have. So that's the only way you're going to do it. That's pretty much what we tell our guys.
Yeah, and that's just what I want to say, man. It's just again, junior college and high school have some very close similarities, man, in that path, but it's just named different or has different terms to it. But it's very similar. And what a lot of people don't realize, the lower the division, the harder it is to get into that institution. Right. So when you start looking at Division II, especially your Division IIIs, are typically very high academic schools. Right. I mean, Division III programs are very high. A lot of them are liberal art colleges and things, and it's very high to get into those institutions. And that's what the guys think, it's lesser football, it's easier to get into. No, it doesn't work like that, man. And so we got to just do a better job as our high school coaches. We have to do a better job educating our guys. It's not just about X's and O's. You know what I mean? If it was about just X's and O's, then you wouldn't have to do all that. But I do want to say this in conclusion with the ugly part of it is, as I looked at going back to some of these last chance U's, and I looked at this is why, because I am big on a person taking responsibility of their actions, right, and knowing who you are. As I looked at some, not necessarily this last season wasn't. I didn't see it as bad. I thought it was a little, like I said, mild-mannered. They kind of went more deep into the backstory of a lot of these young athletes. But the previous seasons, I mean, you see guys doing all type of wild stuff, bro. Like, as we say at the crib, they loose. You understand what I'm saying? They wide open. And these guys are coming from all different walks of life. You got guys coming from the north, south, east, and west. But one thing I realize is birds of a feather flock together. And you have to take responsibility as a young athlete to know if you're that kind of guy who's a weed smoker, if you're a guy that likes to do foolishness, some people like to steal and rob and all that foolishness and try and bring that on campus, is not going to work. But you think, oh, I'm going to go get a fresh start when I go here. It doesn't typically work that way. Yeah, you might be good for a week, but eventually your true character is going to take over. And your true character is going to find somebody else that has that same mindset, right? That one dude going to be like, hey, boy, you want to smoke? We finna go around the back. Coach ain't going to catch us. Hey, man, we struggling. We don't have a meal plan. Let's order a pizza. When he come, we're going to snatch the pizza and dip. But you do it with a doggone, I ain't going to say our school. I want to put no, you're going to say with junior college football team on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, guys. So I think that's one of the ugly parts, too, is that a lot of guys don't understand that you're catching guys from all walks of life, from all parts of this country, from all different type of backgrounds. But there is going to be somebody on that team that you got something in common with, and you guys are going to start linking up. So unless you make a conscious decision to change those ways, you're going to be right back to where you want to be, home. You know what I mean? Right. So, Coach, man, I want to say this. I really appreciate you coming on here, giving myself as well as the viewers some insight on the junior college program, giving us some knowledge about it. Is there anything that you would like to say kind of in conclusion here of just maybe something that we didn't touch on, or maybe a question I didn't ask that you want to kind of expound on a little bit?
Well, just like we were talking before I got cut off there for a second, and just the benefits and just, how does a guy, who was an average guy in high school go from that to going to a junior college and getting a chance to play Division I? I just think that it's important for the viewers, especially those athletes that are hopefully watching, that I truly believe that a lot of it has to do with where you're at mentally and how strong you are mentally. And I truly, truly believe that if you have it mentally and you believe you're a D1 guy, I think that's half the battle. And it's how you handle the adversity. How do you handle, going into a program with, 20 other guys at your position? How do you handle when you get an injury? How do you handle when you get news from home, that someone passed away, and you're thousands of miles away, and how do you bounce back from those type of things? And the thing that I've noticed is the guys that have gone on to play Division I that, in my opinion, I didn't think they had a shot before we started the season. Those guys are some of the most humble guys that I've ever met. For example, we had a tight end this year who I don't believe he passes the eyeball test, for a lot of D1 guys. And this young man came to practice every day with a positive attitude, and you never would know if he was upset about something. And we're going into the season. This is an all-conference tight end, and he goes probably 3 or 4 games without catching a ball. And, and any other, a lot of kids that are that have that type of experience of being an all-conference guy, they're going to be upset about it. They're going to be sitting there asking why they're not getting the ball, and they're going to start, showing their frustration. And this young man, he never, you would have never guessed he was upset about anything, because every day he came out and worked and continued to work and just busted his butt to get better. And now he's playing at an FCS school now. And I look at something like that and think, man, like if he hadn't had the right mindset, he wouldn't be in this position. And I just think it's really important. It's really important for guys to understand also that, in California, that we don't have a bunch of scholarships. There are schools that do have work study jobs that they can help with the cost. But I think in California, and I'm not just talking to us or any particular school, I think in general, as much as kids want to jump to those Kansas and Mississippi JUCOs because they are given a full ride scholarship, which I totally understand, but there is a great opportunity to play ball if you're really trying to get on the radar of a Division I coach. I think we're in California, if you decided to come out here and you pick the right school where you're not going to be somewhere where you're going to be just one of 20 guys and you're going to get an opportunity, there is a ton of opportunity because we're all limited. that we can't, even us with dorms, we can't bring in 100 guys. We have to share those dorms with our basketball team, softball team, baseball team, and so on. And so we're limited. And so, I mean, everybody's limited. So if you're willing to take a shot and you have the financial support to go off and play here in California and you can find the right JUCO, shoot, sky's the limit. If you're a 6'2" receiver and you have good speed and you know, you're right now in most people's eyes, you look like an average receiver, and you go to school where they throw you the ball and you get to with the quarterback that can throw the ball to you in certain areas and make plays, you can continue on and you can go to the Division I level if you have your grades and you know you've done everything you have to do. And the thing I try to tell our guys, I know my position group is that you have to treat your classes like they're the Super Bowl. You have to treat everything so serious, and you do have to be on top of it. And you have to take. It's kind of what you said earlier. You got to have the right mindset to go in. And I think that it has to do with who you surround yourself around. And you got to make sure you're with guys that are on the same level with you when it comes to their goals and things like that. Guys that are responsible. And if you can attach yourself to guys like that, it's going to help you in having a good support system going further. And you know, I've seen some incredible things in the past year with guys that for example, we had an NAIA guy that was at a school in Montana, showed up to our campus one day out of the blue last summer. And now, you know, he had about 2 or 3 D1 offers when it was all said and done. And I think to myself, like, how the heck did this happen? How did we even get lucky enough? We were fortunate. He was a local kid, and it was tough for him to come to us. And then, you know, you get guys where, you know, we had a 6'6", 220-pound, skinny wide receiver converting to defensive line who played 1 year as a defensive lineman, and he had about at least 3 or 4 Power 5 schools recruiting him. Probably had a total of 10 D1s recruiting him as well, and you know, chose to go to a top FCS school at the semester. And I that to me blows me away. A guy that was never even heard of, and all of a sudden he's playing Division I football. And so I just, you know, but these are kids, again, the guys that I'm referencing to are all guys that had the right mindset. They never missed a practice. They never missed a game. They never disrespected anybody. And they were just yes, sir, no, sir guys. And they might not have been like that outside of when they were with us, but they understood that this was taken very serious, and they understood that our head coach meant business, and they understood that if they did the things that they were supposed to do, that it could pay off big time for them. And I just think that's important for people to know, the viewers out there that are watching, listening to what we're talking about today, is that if the kid has it mentally, like I got a kid right now that I'm recruiting out of Florida that I just absolutely love because he understands the whole process. He understands what we're going to do and getting him here and everything. And I'm so excited to have him because I think we're going to be able to help him because he's got the right mindset. If he didn't have the right mindset, I don't know if I'd be as excited because you don't know really what you're getting if a kid doesn't really get what the whole junior college process is about. So those are just I just wanted to share that because I just think it's so important for guys to hear it because I think it is simple. I think there is simple things that you do as in just working hard, listening, you know, staying focused. It's all simple things. It's nothing. There's no rocket science behind it. There's nothing that, you know, you got to go to this trainer. You got to get this guy to help you with this and that. I mean, it's all about, you know, how hard do you work? And I just using, you know, some of the kids that I've been able to, you know, interact throughout the years and helping and having some kind of influence on them and them being able to go off to play Division I football.
Got you. Well, so now I'm gonna just say this in the end, man, and I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate it. I know we do have, Chad Ochocinco, right? Chad Johnson. A lot of people don't realize he's from Miami, right? Went to Miami Beach Senior High School, but he played his college ball at Oregon State. And so a lot of people, this was back in the late 90s, I guess, 97, 98, somewhere in there. A lot of people don't realize his path to Oregon State was through Santa Monica Junior College. Or college. I'm not sure if it's junior college or college, but Santa Monica.
Santa Monica.
Yeah, he went through Santa Monica. So, again, I'm all for it, and I know it works for people, right? It works for people. But at the end of the day, like I always said, I want to make sure we touched on all avenues, the good, the bad, and the ugly about it. Because like anything else, everybody's not going to be 100% successful, and partly that is due to that individual, right? They, like you said, they don't work hard, they don't do the things. Some of it is lack of information. Some of it is just lack of talent, right? It just is what it is.
Right.
And so those are the things, man. So I just wanted to make sure I touched on that. Coach, I thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate everything that you said, your time coming on here. I know you got some little ones to feed. I heard pizza in the back.
Yeah.
Hey, so guess what? I'm not gonna hold it any longer because I don't want to be the reason. So so I appreciate you, Coach. I thank you so much, man. And like I said, if there's anything any shout out you want to give to anybody in particular, man, you're more than welcome. And I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna get out of here in a few seconds.
I just want to say thanks, Coach. Coach Hayes, I think what you're doing is a great thing. And to give the information that you're giving to viewers is so important. And I just wish that more things like this were out there for kids and families to hear, because I think everything that you're talking about really hits home and everybody can relate one way or another. And, I just think that you do a great job of touching on everything and being realistic about it all and being honest about it all. And I got a lot of appreciation for that. So just thank you for having me. It really does mean a lot, and I'm glad I was able to do it, and I'd love to come back if you ever needed me to come back again. So thank you.
Definitely, man. You're more than welcome to come anytime. If you got a topic you want to bring up, something that happened, a part 2 of this, you're more than Coach, man. Guess what? Something we didn't touch, man. Let's do that. I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. And guess what? You might be able to use this in your recruiting video. Hey, Mom, go on to Coach Hayes Football. Check out this video I did so you get to know the good, the bad, and the ugly, blah, blah, blah. And I keep it straight and I keep it real right here with Coach Hayes Football Live. So you might be able to do that. Who knows? But anyway, man, I appreciate it. Coach, I thank you so much again for coming on. And with all that being said, this is Coach Hayes Football Live. We come on every Thursday, talk about just different football things. I do WRE Live on Tuesdays at 8, that is 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I do that 8 p.m. Eastern time. WRE Live is Watch, React, and Evaluate Live with the top prospects here in the nation. And we actually interview them a little bit, talk about their recruiting process, as well as I break their film down with them. Okay. And then I drop a film every day, basically Monday through Friday, of the top recruits in the nation, where I do reaction videos to their film. And I give my pros and cons based on what I see on the film, things that I like, and maybe some things I think that they probably could work on, or whatever the case may be. So with all that being said, thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And Coach, we're going to talk here in a second, and we out of here, man.
RenderForce.com